What does home and community mean? My English 1 synthesis essay. What comes to mind when I ask you what a home is? Does the house you live in appear? Your childhood home? Or your college dorm? How about when I ask you what a community is? Does your neighbors come to mind? Or how about a church congregation? The fact is that home and community have very different meanings to everyone, and that makes it hard to pin down a definition for the two words. But for this work, let us say that home is where one lives permanently, and that community is a group of people who live in the same place or share similar qualities or characteristics. So let's not get confused about why I've written this presentation. I have been asked by the City Council to evaluate the importance and role of home and community in modern society. So with this in mind, let me begin by quoting Ray Oldenburg, who says, "The problem of place in America has not been resolved, and life has become more jangled and fragmented. No new form of integral community has been found. The small town has yet to be greeted by its replacement, and the American people are not a contented people." When Oldenburg is making the claim that Americans are not content due to the lack of closeness in their community, Oldenburg is making the claim that Americans are not content due to the lack of closeness in their community, whereas at one point in time the small town or community was a lot closer, which led to Americans feeling a greater sense of contentment. On the same note, Oldenburg furthers his point when he says, "Kenneth Harris has commented on one of the things the British people miss most in the US. It is most reasonable approximation of the village inn or local pub. Our neighborhoods do not have it." Harris comments, "The American does not walk around the local 2 or 3 times a week with his wife or son to have his pint, chat with the neighbors, and then walk home. He does not take out the dog last thing every night and break his journey with a quick one at the Crown. The contrast in cultures is keenly felt by those who enjoy dual residence in Europe and America. Victor Gruen and his wife have a large place in Los Angeles and a small one in Vienna. They say he doesn't like leaving his apartment in Los Angeles because of a major investment of time and nervous strain in driving long distances, whereas in Vienna they are in walking distance of a multitude of public places, where they don't necessarily prearrange meetings with their friends, but they tend to bump into them, and they seem to enjoy Vienna more than America, despite the fact of owning more property in America." By saying this, Oldenburg is proving his point. I mean, there has to be a problem if a couple of people prefer to stay in Vienna when they own less property over there than in America. So they must feel a closer sense of community in Vienna than in America. To further understand this argument, let's look at what Sebastian Junger says in his book Tribes. Benjamin Franklin lamented that English settlers were constantly fleeing over to the Indians, but Indians almost never did the same. Tribal society has been exerting an almost gravitational pull on Westerners for hundreds of years, and the reason lies deep in our evolutionary past as a communal species. The most recent example of that attraction is combat veterans who come home to find themselves missing the incredibly intimate bonds of platoon life. The loss of closeness that comes at the end of deployment may explain the high rates of post-traumatic stress disorder suffered by military veterans today. By saying this, Jungers is providing provocative proof that to the human, it is essential for a healthy life to have a greater sense of community. And moving or staying American mobility, who moves, who stays put, where's home? The Pew Research Center says more than 6 in 10 adults, 63%, have moved to a new community at least once in their lives, while 37% have never left their hometowns. Most adults, 57%, have not lived outside their current home states in the U.S. At the opposite end of the spectrum, 15% have lived in 4 or more states. What this means is most people are having trouble finding reasons to settle down, which means that their sense of home is extremely distorted, which is a problem. So what can be done to fix this problem? As creating a sense of community, the role of public space, by Jacinta Francis, Billy Gills-Corti, Lisa Wood, and Matthew Kuhneman, found that the perceived quality of POS in shops appeared to be strongly associated with sense of community. The presence of high-quality public spaces in local neighborhoods, irresponsive of whether used frequently or not, may be important for enhancing sense of community among residents. Nevertheless, further research is needed to explore causation. The benefits of a strong sense of community are numerous and potentially include increased participation in community affairs and better physical and mental health. Policies that support high-quality public spaces are warranted. So in conclusion, the city should do all that is possible to increase the feeling of community so as to better the town and their inhabitants.
Are you going to keep working on